What's up, everybody? Today we're going to talk about shingles and why they're the most popular roofing material on the market. There's a number of reasons for that. First, I'm going to take you through kind of the background of shingles, where they came from, kind of their evolution and stuff like that. So they were invented in 1903 by Henry Reynolds. And initially it was a very crude product, just a sort of roll of asphalt that was sort of cut up and then just put around the roof. And then over time it kind of developed, there was big development through the 50s, 60s, 70s into more of what we think of today as a modern shingle. And then it sort of evolved from there. There's been development since then. It started out with sort of the 3-tab is sort of the first iteration of that, and then now 3-tabs are still made, but we've moved more towards an architectural shingle, taking precedent in most of the installs that we see today. If you have anybody that comes through, any contractors or anything like that that's proposing a 3-tab shingle as part of their proposal, I'd recommend that you steer clear of that because there's a huge discrepancy between 3-tab and architectural in terms of quality, and the price is pretty negligible. It's a couple $100 per roof, so you're going to be much better off with an architectural shingle. And funny enough, actually, before the modern shingle was invented, that moment in 1903, in America we found a lot of kind of clay tile roofs and that kind of thing, and that's actually a very historical roofing material. That dates all the way back to 5,000 years ago in ancient China. They were using all that stuff back then still. So why are shingles so popular? So the first reason is pretty simple. They're cheap. They're one of the cheaper roofing materials on the market. There's really not a whole lot that is cheaper than them as far as stuff that lasts or anything that you see long term on a house. There is like cheaper kind of vinyl stuff that you might see on a shed. But as far as anything that you put on the house, shingles are going to be the cheapest option for that. Another reason why they're popular is they're versatile. They're relatively easy to install compared to, say, standing seam or tile roofs and stuff like that. And when I say easy, it takes a lot of work and still a lot of knowledge, but just relative to those things where, a standing seam, you're bringing in a whole fabrication machine and having to understand how to work this machinery and make, geometric cuts and stuff like that. Shingles are relatively easy by comparison, and there's a wider range of people who are capable of doing a quality shingle install. So that's another reason. They have relatively good life for the cost. Not as good as, say, again, standing seam, some of those higher end kind of metal roofs or tile and that kind of thing, but good enough where, you're going to get at least 15 to 20 years out of them. And, you're going to be relatively happy. A lot of people don't even know if they're going to be in the house for 15 to 20 years. So in that case, shingles work really well because they're going to take care of you for the foreseeable future for a good long time, and you're not going to have to worry about it for many, many years. And you're not going to be out of pocket as significantly as you would with, say, standing seam or what have you. They look good. They're relatively easy to manufacture in terms of just sort of high production. There's factories all over America that are just churning these things out. Again, in contrast to standing seam, where each roof has to be specifically manufactured for that house, they're just able to manufacture these shingles en masse in these factories just all across America and ship them out wherever they need them. As far as repairs and stuff like that go, they do require a little bit more maintenance and repair than metal roofs, tile, and that kind of thing. But the flip side is that they're easy to repair. So you think about, like, I sometimes use the analogy of, a car, right? So diesels often don't require as frequent repairs, but it's much harder to find a mechanic, and sometimes it's more expensive when you do. Shingles are kind of the same thing. It's very easy to conduct repairs on a shingle roof, but they do kind of pop up more frequently just because the material's not as resilient. There's a lot of nails going on through the course of the install, so require a little bit more maintenance, but they're also easier to install at the same time. The downside of shingles is that they don't last as long as, those higher end options. They're not as resilient, so a lot of our business comes through from hailstorms and that kind of thing. So when hail hits the shingles, they're not going to be as resilient as standing seam or tile and that kind of thing. Another thing that people have differing opinions on, but shingles aren't as eco-conscious maybe as metal roofs and stuff like that. So that's something that we're working on in the industry, where we want to kind of reduce our eco footprint and stuff like that. And there have been developments in that vein over the last few years, where we're starting to get into recycling shingles. Oftentimes they're used for roads and that kind of thing, where you don't need a high quality pure asphalt. You can just sort of recycle those shingles and just churn them around and put them to good use in road manufacturing and that kind of thing. And then as far as the future of shingles goes, there's a lot of differing opinions on that. I think shingles are here to stay for the foreseeable future, but there is stuff coming down the pike in terms of solar shingles. I think are going to take a huge swing up in the next 10 to 15 years probably. I think we're going to see a lot of that. We're already seeing a lot of solar panels being installed, and I think over time that's going to be integrated into the roof system itself, and you're going to see things like the Tesla Powerwall coming into its own in terms of a common popular product that a lot of people use. As far as the immediate future, what we're seeing in terms of the recent development is, because of the hail factor, where the typical shingles that we have been putting on over the past 20 to 30 years didn't have great hail resistance. We're seeing a lot of class 4 shingles, which is just they look exactly the same. They're just a thicker shingle, and they have really good hail resistance. So I tell people all the time, insurance companies will usually give you, a 15 or so % discount on your premiums for having a class 4 shingle, just because they have that much better impact resistance. And when a hailstorm comes through, odds are you aren't going to need to replace your roof. So because of that reduction in claims, insurance often passes that on to you as the homeowner for having a superior product installed, where you're not going to need to have it replaced in the future. And that's sort of an overview of the shingles. So again, they're 80% of the roofs in the residential roofs in America have shingles installed on them. So they're incredibly popular product. They're popular for a reason. And they're here to stay for the foreseeable future. Obviously, we're always keeping tabs on new developments and stuff like that in the roofing industry, but they're a great product, and if they're properly installed, they'll last you for a good long time. So I hope you found that useful, and we'll see you on the next one.